Hello and welcome to this podcast from the BBC World Service. Please let us know what you think and tell other people about us on social media. Podcasts from the BBC World Service are supported by advertising.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Just finish this. We'd all like some quick and simple ways to improve our health, but we're bombarded with often conflicting advice. So, if you were going to do just one thing to improve your mental and physical well-being, what should it be? Maybe a few squats to enhance your brain, or more bacteria to improve your mood, or even a cold shower to boost your immune system. I'm Dr. Michael Mosley, and this is Just One Thing, where each episode we'll explore one thing you can start doing tomorrow to improve your health or life in ways you might not expect. Right, today I'm in the kitchen and I'm making some purple sauerkraut. I just chopped up about half a kilo of red cabbage, and I've added some organic onions, also chopped up, along with some coriander, chilli, and grated in some beetroot. Now I'm adding in a couple of teaspoons of salt, there we go, to kill any unhealthy bacteria in the cabbage, and I'm giving it a good old massage. And then I'm going to start squishing it with the end of a rolling pin. Ooh, this is strangely satisfying. After a couple of minutes of that, I will transfer it all into a big glass jar and let it ferment for a week or so. It only takes a few minutes to prepare, and I love the taste of homemade sauerkraut. But one of the other reasons I'm doing this is because after a week or so, I will have a food that is bursting with probiotics, bacteria which can apparently confer lots of health benefits. Making sauerkraut is one of the easiest ways to generate probiotics. But you can also make your own kombucha, a type of fermented tea, and kefir, a fermented, slightly fizzy type of yogurt. Fermenting has long been an excellent way to preserve food, but these days fermented foods have become super trendy because of claims that consuming probiotics helps promote weight loss, reduces gut inflammation, and perhaps, more surprisingly, can also impact your mental health. So for this episode of Just One Thing, we are going to explore the science behind probiotics. What are the benefits and what's the best way to get them?
I'm Claire and I'm 41 and I'm a speech and language therapist. I'd always like to improve my health. I'm going to be trying to make my own kefir. I don't really know what that involves yet. I've always liked yogurty, milky drinks, but I've never really looked into what kefir is very much. So totally up for giving it a go and seeing if it has any general impact on health, or if I like it, if it's something I want to make regularly.
We're asking Claire to try consuming kefir once a day. Kefir is a tangy yogurt-like drink, a form of fermented milk, and it's absolutely teeming with lots of lovely bacteria. You might have seen it in the supermarket, or like Claire, you might be thinking about trying to make it yourself. In recent years, there has been a surge of research into the gut microbiome, the thousands of different species of microbes that live in your gut and which have a profound effect on your health. The gut microbiome is made up of around 100 trillion microbes, a mixture of bacteria, viruses and fungi. Together they weigh about 2 kilos, which is slightly heavier than your brain. And they make up about half the cells in your body, which means when you think about it, that you are half human, half microbiome. Indeed, a scientist recently estimated that because feces is largely made up of dead bacteria, every time you empty your bowels, you become briefly slightly more human than microbe. You can think of your gut microbiome as a complex rainforest. And just like a rainforest, there is a rich diversity of life down there, battling for survival. Some of those microbes seem to be good for our health, others not so much. We know that the microbiome can influence your immune system and alter the activity of things like your natural killer cells, a vital part of your body's defences. Some of them can turn the fibre in your diet into anti-inflammatory compounds, which is a good thing, because chronic inflammation leads to conditions like type 2 diabetes, heart disease and dementia. The microbiome can even influence your sleep. I've certainly found that since I've started consuming a lot more sauerkraut and kimchi, I am sleeping better. But perhaps the most surprising link is that between your gut and your brain. The ancient Greeks believed that mental disorders arose when the digestive tract produced too much black bile. Now we know it is actually the hidden world of the microbiome that may be shaping our behaviour. And there is even a new word to describe this: psychobiotics. It is the name given to microbes that can impact our mood. Research so far has mainly been done in animals. In one study, rats that had been previously hooked on nicotine showed less withdrawal symptoms when they were fed kefir. As for human studies, well, a recent one involving over 700 volunteers found those who ate the most fermented foods had the lowest levels of social anxiety. So what does this all really mean? I'm going to be chatting with an expert shortly, but for now, let's see how Claire is getting on with the kefir.
I received my kefir grains in the post and I put them into milk in one of those large jars. And then after about 24 hours, I strained out the grains and drunk the liquid, which was my first sort of proper kefir drink. They do say in the instructions that it's supposed to get better over time and the first batch isn't supposed to taste that good, but it was okay, sort of tangy, bit odd tasting, but I've put it in the fridge overnight because I think that chilled in the morning with a bit of honey or maple syrup, I could work this into my routine.
So Claire is making a good start. But let's take a deeper dive into the potential benefits of eating more fermented foods with Dr. Kirsten Birding-Harold from University College Cork. Kirsten, how strong is the evidence that taking probiotics can have an impact on your mental health?
We do get more and more evidence that, taking probiotics does benefit your mental health. A lot of this previously is coming from animal studies, and we do see some translation now into human studies. We specifically need to know which microbes or which probiotics are the ones that can benefit our mental health.
So in your particular study, what did you do and what did you find?
So actually, my study used a whole dietary approach. So instead of giving capsules that have probiotics, we called them the microbiota-friendly foods. So these included whole grains, some fermented foods, which would contain the bacteria, fruits and vegetables. So we told the participants to eat that particular diet for 4 weeks, and we measured kind of like how their bacteria changed over those 4 weeks and how their mood changed. And we do see that following the diet for 4 weeks, they felt a lot less stressed and they had an improved mood. So the preliminary results suggest that it does help your mood and mental health to eat a diet that is microbiota friendly.
So as well as the whole grains, which presumably provide the fibre for the good bacteria, if you like, down in your gut, what were the fermented foods you asked them to consume?
So it was mostly the kefir or kefir. It included also sauerkraut, so those would be the main ones. Some other participants would eat kimchi, was another one.
How much did they have to consume?
It was 2 to 3 servings a day. So a serving would be like, for example, of the kefir would be like a cup, similar with the sauerkraut. So it'd be about 150, 200 milliliters per day, and that do it 2 or 3 times a day.
Do you like these fermented foods yourself?
Yes, I actually do my own kombucha at home. I like the science behind it, but I do also drink kefir every morning. Is
there a downside to suddenly starting to consume lots of fermented food?
Well, if you haven't had any fermented foods or really have a low fiber diet in the beginning, you could have some gastrointestinal problems. So I would suggest to kind of ease into it and don't, eat a whole lot all at once. So you could have some gastrointestinal discomfort, but otherwise there have been no reported disadvantages to eating fermented foods.
Indeed. I know that artichokes are also known as fartichokes because they have a reputation for clearing the room.
Yes, that is very true. So with my participants, they had very low fiber in the beginning. So some were complaining about gastrointestinal discomfort or, a lot of gas in the beginning, but you do get used to it after a week or so, I would say.
In terms of the mechanism, why do we think that consuming probiotics might have an effect on mood?
Yeah, so there's different mechanisms that are being investigated. That's one of the big areas now that researchers are diving into. So one of the big ones would be the immune system. So we know that the microbiota influences the immune system. So we think, for example, some of that kefir or other fermented foods can be anti-inflammatory. So by improving your immune system, it could have effects on the brain. There's other mechanisms, for example, the vagus nerve, that we know that bacteria and some metabolites can signal through. So it's really getting deciphered now how exactly the microbes can affect the brain.
I know that University College, where you work, is where the term psychobiotics first emerged. Is there an attempt now to actually use it to treat people who have serious depression or anxiety?
Yes, so Ted Dinan, who I had the pleasure of working with, he coined that term, and it's really an approach that we want to take in the future, to use psychobiotics and not just probiotics, but whole dietary approaches, maybe a kind of like a supplemental therapy for people with depression, especially those who are resistant to some of the other treatments that are out there. I do know that Ted, for example, also tells his patients to change their diet a lot, and also exercise is very important. So it is being used in the clinic, but we really hope to develop really evidence-based recommendations with some of the research that we're doing here.
So if we're encouraging people to eat more whole grains and also more fermented foods, are there foods you should avoid if they have a toxic effect on the good bacteria?
Yes, definitely. So those would be the unhealthy foods that we know. So a lot of the processed foods, the high fat foods, the fried foods, high sugar foods. So all actually the foods that taste good to a lot of people are actually the ones that are bad for your gut microbes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So now let's check in for a final time with Claire.
So I had some kefir for breakfast this morning, and it was lovely actually. When it was been chilled in the fridge overnight, it made quite a difference. And I can really see having it as part of my breakfast maybe a few times a week, maybe not every day, but ever so often. It's a bit early to say if it's had an impact on my health, to be honest, but I did get this email the other day analysing my diet, something I must have filled in a few months ago. My diet in terms of gut health was right at the bottom of the scale, so I'm obviously not eating the right food. So I'm really hoping that this is actually a really positive change for my diet, which will make quite a difference to my health in the long term, fingers crossed.
There is clearly a powerful link between your gut and your brain, and eating probiotic-rich fermented foods like kefir seems to be a great way to not only boost your microbiome, but also to potentially boost your mood. And once you have acquired a taste for fermented foods, I suspect they will become a regular part of your diet, like this sauerkraut, which I'm eating with my scrambled eggs at the moment. But do build up slowly, otherwise your guts really won't thank you. So that's it. Just one thing you can incorporate into your daily routine which really could benefit your body and life. If you want to hear other Just One Things, then why not subscribe to BBC Sounds for more of the series? Join me next time when I'll be finding out why having a daily cold shower could boost your mood and fight off the flu.